All right, I've got my Honda Foreman 450 carburetor ready to go back together here. I purchased a rebuild kit from Moose. There is a lot of aftermarket, unbranded, knockoff carb kits that are sold online. I just want to make sure that I got a quality kit. It's going to come with all the pieces that I need, and wanted to make sure I was going to be happy with the kit that I received. I went through and cleaned that carburetor and used a ultrasonic cleaner to do an exceptional job. Cleaned it up really nice. And all I'm going to do now is put the carb kit in there. I've got O-rings, different seals, needles, jets, everything I need to rebuild this carburetor that we're going to do today. So first thing we're going to do is put the jets in there. Now I want to make sure that we put the correct jets in there because sometimes they'll come with different sizes. They'll come with different jets than what would typically go in here, just for different elevations. So I'm going to check these jets just to verify that they are the correct ones. 130 main. Now a lot of times a main jet, if you can see through it, make sure that there's no debris stuck in there. A lot of times that main jet is going to be good, so I'm actually going to put that one aside. I'm going to put this main jet, the main jet holder in there. I'm going to snug that up. Now I've got our pilot jet that is here, and that's actually the same thing. It's actually really clean, looks in good condition, but a pilot jet can sometimes will tend to have debris build up on the side of it there. I'm actually going to put a new pilot jet in there since we have it. I'm going to take a screwdriver now and tighten these both down here. The pilot jet works when you are starting the four-wheeler all the way up into about a quarter throttle, and that's when the main jet takes over. Take a 7mm and snug that main jet holder up and that main jet as well. We've got a rubber cap on there, and that rubber cap actually slides down into place there, and it should be snug enough to hold on its own. We've got a secondary main jet coming in from the side there. We've actually taken that out with a screwdriver and cleaned that out, made sure that it was in good condition. Next thing we're going to do is put our needle valve in there, and a lot of times this is the reason why we even need to put a carb kit in there, is because of this needle valve here sits on this float assembly and just sits in that groove there and slides down into that seat there. Now a lot of times that seat can be squared off, it can be damaged, it could have debris stuck in there. It comes from the fuel tank, and this port here comes down through here and will release that fuel into the bottom bowl of your carburetor. Now you want to make sure that that's cleaned out and in good condition before going back together with this. So I'm going to slide that in there. That's in good condition there. Take our pin then and run it in there. On this one you can see we've got some splined edges there. That's just to keep it from sliding in and out. Now because of the cap, it's not going to slide out, but it does hold it snug in there. Now I just take something light, and just tap on it. Now you just want it far enough to where you can take and slide this on there. Now because we have this, we are, I believe, ready for this. So I'm going to take a razor blade and I'm going to cut this O-ring out there. And you wouldn't have to, except for a lot of times it kind of seals itself down in there. And I'm not going to do this over top of our carburetor because there probably would be chunks of metal or chunks of rubber that actually drop off of here. So you can see that O-ring there just comes apart in pieces. All right, we've got that bowl there ready for the new O-ring here. And this is a specific O-ring. It's got the circle in it. Sits down in there like that. What I can do if it's not seated or if it's not seating and staying in place like it should, what I'll sometimes do is take a dab of grease, put it on there and set it in there. A lot of times that'll kind of hold that into place there. Now, before we put that bowl on there and that O-ring, we've got a spacer right here. And there's only about 2 places that that'll actually sit, and you can test it by taking and putting your bowl into place. And this overflow tube here actually needs to line up with one of those grooves there. So if you get it to a spot and it's just not looking right or feeling right, maybe take your bowl here, set it down on top of there, and see if it's going to sit properly into place. That is exactly the way that it needs to go right there. So if you want to take note when you're putting yours together, if your fuel inlet is here, you want the 2 grooves on that side. Take and set that down. A lot of people will forget or not put that that plastic piece in place there. And to be honest, I'm not totally sure if you'll notice a difference when it's running. We've got our 4 Phillips screws we're going to put on here now. And I'm still got my finger over top of here, and what that's doing is holding that O-ring in place, because if I were to pick up and I were to shake this carburetor around a little bit, that O-ring may fall out of place. If that happens, then your carburetor is going to leak gas around that O-ring area. All right, we got those snugged up. Now, looking down into our air-fuel mixture area there, we have got a couple small pieces here that are very, very difficult to get in there. And our carb kit comes with a new air-fuel screw. Now what I'm going to put on there next is our spring, and then I'm going to put on our tiny little washer there, and then I'm going to put on our O-ring. Now I'm going to make sure and slide that down into place there. Now, just because these O-rings and these parts are so small, what I'm going to do is actually flip that carburetor upside down and slide those pieces into place there. If you take and flip that air fuel screw upside down there, those pieces are going to dump off, and you're not going to know if they're seated into place properly. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to turn this all the way in until it's completely seated. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to back it out 2 turns. Half, 1 1/2, 2. And check your manual to see if you need to set yours at a different spot, but that's typically about what it's supposed to be. Okay, now we've got a primer plug here and a spring that's going to go down here on our bottom bowl area. That can only go one direction. And then we'll have 2 screws that will go on there. And you want to make sure that your spring there sits properly on your plunger. Now snug those up. Now we're ready to go up top here. And we have got our diaphragm here with our slide. Got a washer that's going to stay down in there. We've got our needle here, and we've actually got our clip already on there. We're going to slide that down into place. There's about 3 holes in the bottom of this slide here. You do want to make sure that it falls into the right spot. You're not going to get very far with it in the wrong hole there, but it'll just cause a little hassle. Now we've got this piece here, and you want to make sure that that spring's in there, and drop it down in there. Take a Phillips screwdriver, straighten that out, and then it's about an 1/8 turn in there to tighten up. Now you want to be able to take and push on that needle, and that should spring back down. If that doesn't happen, then you've got something wrong there. You've got our diaphragm there, and you've got 1 tab that's going to sit in that groove there, so that's only one direction that that'll go. If you're having a hard time getting it down in there, tip your carb up, because more than likely your needle isn't falling into place down there. Now I take and keep my finger underneath of that slide there so it doesn't fall all the way down. If it does, a lot of times that'll pull this diaphragm out of place there. So now I'm going to take that spring, still have my finger underneath of that slide there. Again, make sure that that groove is lined up where you want it to be. Take, finger still underneath of there. Again, that's just still holding that diaphragm into place. Take, and now we'll put these screws on. And I like to get about 3 of these snugged up before I let go of that slide. That way it doesn't pull it out of the sealed area there. All right, those 3 are snugged up. We've got 1 more to put in the top here. Let's snug that last one up there. We've got our bowl drain here. I'm going to slide in there. Got a flathead screw on there. Take and snug that up. And we'll go ahead and tighten that all the way down. And that one should be tightened all the way down. That seals that drain. If you take and unscrew that a couple turns, it's going to drain out of this bottom tab here. Now we're going to take and we're going to put this on the 4-wheeler. And if you guys have questions, make sure and leave those in the comments below. If this video has been helpful, make sure you like and subscribe.